order this Monday, December 16th meeting of the Waterbury Select Board at 7:04 PM. And start with apologies to all for the late hour. I came directly from a Roxbury Select Board meeting. Also, Roger is not present tonight, so I'm chairing the meeting. So thank you everyone for your patience. Our first item of business is to approve the agenda. I will note for information that I took the minutes of the last two meetings, but they haven't been distributed to the board. So if someone wants to move that to a future agenda, that'd be welcome. Is there any motions with regards to approving the agenda?
I move to approve the agenda with the amendment that we approve the minutes from the special meeting, the 10th and the 11th to a future meeting.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? We have an agenda. Our next item is public business. This is an opportunity for anyone in person or online who would speak to something that is not already on the agenda. We ask that you keep your remarks brief to about 3 minutes. And if there's items that warrant further discussion, we can add them to a future meeting agenda. Is there anyone who would like to speak on public comment? Ian, is that a hand up?
Nope, sorry.
All right, Mike.
I would like to give support in probably about 53 minutes. Our University of Vermont Catamounts are going to be in the national championship game of soccer, which is kind of, you know, I have when I was at the Final Four for the hockey team down in Washington, DC. This is quite a good thing. We probably should have a simulcast here, but there being none, it's on Devo at home. But here's to the UVM Catamounts. I know there are a lot of Waterbury ex UVM grads. So to all of them, I hope they're watching, and I'm hoping we're going to be happy tonight. Thanks.
Anyone else with items for public comment? Anyone online? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to our next agenda item, which is rental registry postcard. We had talked about this briefly at a last meeting. The select board has previously passed a rental registry ordinance and approved the questions for that registry. And this is a question about outreach to the community, informing them of that item. I note that our zoning administrator, Mike Bishop, is online. I don't know if he or Tom want to speak to this.
Sure, I can start. So a couple meetings ago, which I wasn't here, we gave you draft language for the postcard. Just wanted to make sure that that was firm and nothing wanted to be added. I know there was some conversation about and just some concerns about the registry in general. And then just wanted to make sure with Mike on the line that we're all comfortable with the deadlines here. Just because it's related to new software that he's still rolling out. So we had put in the draft February 1st. So we'd send the postcards out in January with the deadline to apply February 1st. The goal, and Mike can intervene here, is that we want to put the postcards we send a QR code to make it easy for folks to get to the registry, which I believe is entirely possible with the software. So again, before we do it, just want to make sure people are entirely comfortable with the message that we have provided and the dates.
Great. And I would just say, as a point of information, I think that draft was sent to me because it was the meeting where you were sick, but I did not forward it to everyone. So I don't think the board has seen that draft language yet.
Okay, want me to print that real quick? Or just-
I think that would be good if you don't mind. Other questions, comments on this? I can be the one to note that February 1st might be a little, do we think a month is right? Given mail times, among other things, depending on when in January this is going out. If we don't have the software yet, would just be my question.
So Alyssa, can I say a few things?
Mike is trying to speak.
Oh, thanks. Hello, Mike.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Oh, we can't hear you, unfortunately. It might be the owl. No,
Hmm.
or I don't know if it's not using it, is it okay? That looks great. Speaker. The owl. I'll try it. Hello
Can you hear
again,
me?
Mike. Do you want to try this?
Hi, can you hear me now?
Softly.
Very
But
soft.
we're working on it.
Thank you.
I'm not sure I can make it better. Yeah, no, I don't think that's you. There is volumes on the owl, but I can't reach them. Thanks. Volume on the owl. Ooh. Sandy online.
Oh,
says
we can hear
hear
him
him.
online.
Thanks,
Good. Thank
Sandy.
you, Sandy.
I don't know why we can't hear him.
Yeah, can you hear me? Okay. Sorry, and I lost my train of thought. You were asking about February 1st. Yeah, that's a good question. So I don't think it's a bad goal. But we still have to get the postcards printed up. And I've been checking with a couple of places of where we're going to get them made up. And it's not like something we can get made up in a week or two, especially with the end of the, calendar year. So I'm working on some better timeframes, but I don't think that having them ready to be mailed out by February 1st is out of the question. I've pretty much been on the phone wrapping up the testing with the software company this week. I'm going to pretty much be on all day tomorrow with them. So I'm not really worried about that per se. Right now, I would just say getting the mailing out, and it's not an easy task to mail out postcards. It seems like it is, but it just whether you have to make up your own label or we might have to stamp them individually because we're not really sending them out to just bulk mail to everybody in town. They're going out to a list. So that complicates the process a little bit more. And so I think February 1st might be a good target, but I would say it'd probably be plus or minus a couple weeks.
And just to clarify, you're saying February 1st is a target to send the postcards?
Correct. Yeah, we had originally talked about doing this a little bit earlier, but I don't sending out anything around the holiday time is not a great idea. And so I think that waiting until January to send it out and then giving everybody the deadline of, if we send it out by February 1st, just maybe moving it to February 15th or something like that.
Other questions or comments?
I think if there's trouble reaching the deadline, I guess my question is, do we have to modify the ordinance? Was there a date specified in the ordinance?
No,
No. Okay, and I guess. Yeah, with the snail pace of mail recently. I think moving it back 2 weeks is probably a fair assessment.
I would go March 1st. I don't have a calendar with it, but is that a weekday or? Someone. Just because if we're gonna get them out near February 1st, take a month is reasonable.
March 3rd is the first weekday in March.
March. Yeah, March
Yeah,
3rd.
that's right before town meeting day. Yeah. That would be a more reasonable, ask to give folks that 30 days.
Other questions or comments? Ian?
I agree that 30 days to get this back seems reasonable to me.
And so I would concur with the March 1st / March 3rd. Deadline.
Other questions or comments?
Just want to make sure, do we want to have? It's a postcard, you can only put so much information, do we want to have? Any sort of, not paragraph, but a couple sentences, just saying that this is. It's background on the ordinance, that this is for information. And that was really the intent of the ordinance, to gather the information about the status of rental properties, to gather and track over time. I'm not sure how much room we'll have on a postcard, and do you lose the message if you add too much? Just anticipating that some people will worry about. They might see the free and say, well, for now.
Questions, comments?
I'm fine with it the way it is, I just.
I agree with that. We could just add something that, this information will be for information only.
You could also add that on the registry webpage, if you've got a QR code, so they scan the QR code and all the information they need is there. Right, the postcards go out, here's the QR code, scanned it, oh, that's what this is for.
I would say yes to both those things, that a small, short flip on the postcard and a longer flip on the website might be necessary, because I do think, especially rolling this out for the first time, there'll be some hesitance about what is this all being used for, and the more we can inform people. So I think yes to both those things. Room on the postcard is not much, so maybe we need a very short message on that, but room on the website, I think we could explain a little further exactly our intentions with all this information.
So I'm hearing that the board supports the language with the addition of an additional sentence or so indicating the use of this and the change of the registration deadline to March 1st. First or third preferences?
Third's of Monday,
There's a Monday, so
but I guess it's online, so does it?
Karen?
Typically here, if a deadline is on the 1st and it's a weekend, it's extended to the next business day by default, so you can still make it the 1st. And by default, it's the 3rd, and it looks a little cleaner than writing deadline March 3rd. And just make it the 1st, and no one's gonna be here checking email that day.
And I will note it is right before town meeting, so the other option would be to have it after the fact, but we can certainly inform folks at town meetings. Okay, so again, hearing supportive of adding an additional short sentence about information, as well as more detailed FAQ on the website and changing the deadline to March 1st. Any other questions or comments from the board?
Just one to Mike's point about plus or minus a few weeks. I mean, I think the idea of having a deadline a month later seems reasonable. So is that, we're going to adjust that, whether or not these are able to be mailed out on February 1st?
Mike, do you have anything to add on the mailing?
No, I think there's a good chance that they'll be ready to be mailed out by February 1. I think if we set a deadline for, as Karen said, March 1st, it could be March 3rd. I could also envision, although these are going out to, on whatever address we have on the tax bills, there could be people that show up at town meeting. We could have a board set up there with a QR code on it if people show up to town meeting and they haven't done it yet. So I think maybe just keeping it March 1st. I mean, honestly, Tom and I have talked about this a little bit, the consequences for not doing it, for not registering it. We'd have to cross that bridge later on. But I think March 1st is fine. I think we change it to March 1st and we'll just, people don't do it to March 3rd or at town meeting or whatever. It is what it is.
Any other discussion? Does staff feel like they have the information they need? Do you need a motion?
I think we have it.
Any other comments? We will move on to our next item, which is skate park coalition funding. I know we have a couple folks here. in the handoff between people. I'm not sure what Roger didn't share with you all, so if you want to come up and chat, we're happy to have you back. And I know we as a board have talked about this at previous meetings, but wanted to be able to have some actual dialogue with you all who are involved in the project. From the looks I got, am I correct that Roger did not share any updates with you? From the wide eyes.
I mean, I've just been following the conversation a little bit, so, I gathered that you weren't exactly clear on the amount that you guys would be willing to make a donation towards to support the park project, so that's why we're here.
No, well, there was clarity on the amount.
Okay,
If and I had thought Roger had made a few calls, but I was also emailing in a second.
And do you want to just say hi and who you are just for Zoom
oh, sure,
friends?
yes, I'm Belle McDougal, Waterbury State Park Project.
Thank you,
And Mike Rossi.
thank you.
Sorry, so, the board did allocate $20,000.
Oh, okay,
And so those funds are available without a future public vote. So the board did allocate those funds. I think the outstanding questions for you are, what is your fundraising status on the gap, and what is the plan or hope for construction?
oh, okay,
And then from my perspective, the one outstanding question to the board is, I think it's implied that those funds would be paid to you, not necessarily in advance of construction, but at the groundbreaking. But I think we should have some clarity on that too.
And just in terms of the funding, because it's clear as mud, I would just name that we had extra unallocated ARPA funding because the bridge projects previously approved came in under budget. So we were able to allocate that to rec infrastructure and have that covered. So that's where the money is coming from. And I think that's the question is with that now new information, understanding, the questions that were outlined to you.
okay. So you guys did, you didn't have to vote on that then, because there were,
We had to vote to allocate the funds to rec, the rec department, and then through rec. Move it to you guys.
okay. Oh, that's great, so the bucket, because I looked over the buckets that you guys had allocated. And you were going to be giving $75,000 to a concept of a pickleball court. Is that true?
That hasn't been determined yet.
So that,
Those are friendly suggestions.
oh, okay. Guess I was a little mixed by that, but, because I was involved with the master planning and I was on the rec committee, but pickleball has never come up, so I didn't know why they were potentially giving that much money. As we said in our presentation, the delta right now is 50,000 for the, and so we still have fundraising that we're doing for the next 6 months. And we've raised about 190,000. So our budget is about somewhere between 240,000 and 250,000.
So do you feel confident with the $20,000 pledge from the town that you can close that gap and begin construction?
I mean, it depends on how successful our fundraising is and how generous people feel. We have a couple of events that we're gonna do. I would say we're confident, but our biggest fundraiser got canceled last year because of snow, which was the Blauvelt Bank, so we can't really count on anything. So I guess if the feeling was in our group is if there's, you know, we've made a presentation that the delta is 50,000. And so if there was more funding available from ARPA, which we didn't know about until your last meeting, and or the option stacks monies that seem to be floating around as well to be spent. That, we would, we would be happy to, of course, we're thrilled to get 20,000, but if there's still monies that are available that could be allocated to the park, then, we want to speak to that tonight. Because we're not clear on where you're envisioning this money going in rec.
The money is dedicated to the skate park. Don't worry about the accounting, the money is there, there's $20,000 for the skate park, but I think the conversation last week was that I had drafted a budget that had over 2 years, some local option tax money for the skate park, and the conversation with the select board was that they felt that was too much. And they were comfortable allocating $20,000 of ARPA funds, but beyond that, you can always, and then the town clerk can give you the dates, but you can always petition to be on the warning. But I think the select board sentiment was $20,000 is our comfort level at this point. So I think beyond that, it's up to you to petition if you want to go that route, but I think from our perspective, one of the concerns is the ARPA funds have to be spent by the end of 2026, and so if you have a funding gap in 2025 that's not closed, it's only going to get bigger in 2026 with construction inflation. So I think it would just be good to feel some confidence that you're close to the finish line here, ready to cross over next summer.
Yeah, no, I think you have that. We have, our coalition is committed and we're pretty eager, committed to just doing this next summer. And whether it's a $225,000 park or a $250,000 park, it's gonna get built next summer. The construction team is on board with that. They may be doing their summer schedule. So I don't, and I think towards that commitment and towards that, making sure that we're all this is gonna happen, is we're gonna meet with you tomorrow and discuss a little bit about contracting. Making sure there's no, unforeseen obstacles in the way. So, yeah, we're committed as we can be. We just don't know exactly what the park is gonna look like down to the nth detail. We have a permit for a $250,000 park, but we may not get there.
Can you just clarify, by next summer, is that 2025?
Yeah.
2026, 2025. Any other questions, Mike?
I think just to clarify things, I think we brought to you guys, this is when it was more of a $50,000 gap, that you could come to the voters with a special article, and that's still potentially on the table, but we felt with the ARPA money, where we had some freed up ARPA money that we can give, we can give that $20,000, should you feel you need that. You can't do it with your own fundraising. You could go to the voters and ask for additional funds that way, but you would have to get your petition signed by the deadlines and such to get on the town, brought it.
We talked about that after our last meeting with you guys, but it's not really what we wanted to do.
Yeah, I'm just curious, are you planning on running a barbell banks again this
Oh,
winter?
yeah.
Okay. And generally speaking, how much money does that generate? I know it's a big one for you guys.
It's probably 15,000. Yeah, 15 to 20, yeah.
So it feels like that 50K delta is getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that goes and the 20K from the town, it's 40 roughly. I think his enrollment last year, right before it got canceled, was almost twice as high as he had the year before. He raised around 15 the year before. So it could be, I think it's an easy 20 for Bravo if the weather's good. Yeah, people love that event. But anyway, I think the gap will be significant. We'll be able to go pretty smart.
And there's still bricks for sale.
Still
I'm not
bricks for
mistaken.
sale,
Yeah.
Yeah, and that, I think that would raise another 8,000.
Yeah.
Maybe 500. Yeah, get there, Lisa, get there. Lisa has a nice article that I wrote today in the roundabout that kind of clarifies where.
Yeah.
Where things are at with the park, so the community knows Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah, yeah, and I wasn't exactly sure of the amount, so, you wanted to come tonight, answer your questions and. Sure.
Chris, did you see him?
Yeah, I'd just like to ask a couple of questions of clarification. Bill, you did come to me back when I was on the board there.
Yeah.
And you changed this process. That's what, 5 years now?
Yeah,
I think the original concept was to rebuild one in the center.
yeah,
No, I take that back. It was to move down here, and building down here, and abandon that there. And I had told you that my only concern down here was that it was kind of on the outskirts of town, I was worried about the kids and trying drug dealers and all the crap that's going on. I worried about the kids. Good place to do it. But then I heard kind of through the grapevine, if that's what you want to call it, that the concept was there's some into that, and then it sounds like that one's been scrapped and we're back to square one, which is the center. Is that, am I correct in kind of assuming how?
yeah, I think, yes, you are, is a short answer, but getting there was related to decision making and, expenses that we realized we would have if we built down at the ice center. So when we got involved in the master planning process with the town, they were revising the master plan for the ice center parcel. And then we were creating a new plan for Hope Davy. And in the process, we had designated spaces for skate parks in each location. So a year ago, October, we took down the skate park at Waterbury Center because it was unsafe, basically. So that went away. And the further we got into understanding the engineering that was gonna be required in the flood zone down at the ice center, and then flooded subsequently, we realized that that was not a feasible location. So then we pivoted and decided to build a park at Hope Davy. Plus, we've been at it for 5 years, so we're kind of fatigued
Yeah.
with the process.
So I have a
Yeah.
second question that's kind of two parts to that. As your design up here increased in size from the one that was originally there, and I guess I'm curious to know, $250,000 seems like an excessive amount of money for the skate park, especially if it were the size that was there. So I'm kind of wondering what's driven that cost.
The skate park is not actually expensive for what we're getting. We're getting an incredibly good deal. And, the reason that it is bigger than the original footprint, it is bigger because of safety. Because when you build a concrete skate park, you need areas around the perimeter, areas that relate to the traffic of people, accessing it. So there were drainage concerns and there are concerns about how the safety of that would go. And you don't really want to be going to the trouble of building a high, tech sustainable concrete park unless it is, bigger, a little bit bigger. So they're
Eliminating the basketball court?
No, all of the stakeholders who were involved in the master planning process, including soccer, basketball, baseball, horseshoes, everybody who shares that space, we talked with directly so that they would know that, basketball would stay and that was a priority and how it's gonna be rebuilding that. And it's right next to where the skate park is on that.
Yeah, I just didn't.
Well, you have to go towards soccer. Yeah. Yeah.
So good background. This has been through amended planning with your group in partnership in terms of the different locations and the planning.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a feasible location down at the ice center,
For the
so.
money that we wanted to generate.
Yeah.
I mean, we can build a park down there, but you have to, it's ton of engineering into getting rid of water and managing floods, every, you know, whatever. Stuff like that.
Yes.
We didn't want to pursue that.
Other questions or information you all or the board need? I'll just note to the pickleball, that was penciled in for local option tax, which is on our agenda, for later tonight. So just to say, I think there will be further discussion of that, but not at this particular moment.
Okay,
Because there are multiple buckets of money, so just acknowledging that that is complicated, but that's where that particular proposal was from. As was some money for resurfacing the basketball court, so I guess my last is the 250,000 you're talking about is just the skate park or just that,
Yes.
or just the skate park?
yes, yes,
Okay, so there would be a need for potentially restoring the basketball courts,
yes.
which would be. the
Right,
town.
but we've always said that. Yeah.
Any other questions from the board or folks only? Well, hopefully it'll be
Thank
some good no's, knowing for sure on the 20,000, which we know is
Yeah,
a little
thank you guys.
opaque, and please be in touch if there's other things. We're having also later on the agenda, have your say day for town meeting, so there'll be lots of opportunities for input here.
Okay.
Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. All right, next up, we will move to budget, starting specifically with a deep dive in public works budget discussion.
Woody?
The record, Bill Woodruff, Public Works Director.
I'm sorry.
At previous meetings, we received a full draft budget from Tom, and Public Works was one we flagged in as one where we were interested in doing a little more deep dive. Thanks for being here, Woody. I don't know if you or Tom want to highlight any in particular changes or things you think are important to highlight.
Why don't I just start with some of the highlights? The very first line, that Vermont State Highway aid, is essentially a per mile aid that all towns get. The reason 2024 is so high is because after the flood, the state accelerated a 2025 payment difference between fiscal years there and ours. It was their fiscal year and not ours. So the auditors will cut that 186 down by 60 roughly, and that'll be booked as 2025 revenue. Lines 14 and 15, the FEMA reimbursement, that is a couple things. The first is when we deal with FEMA reimbursement, we incur the expenses in 1 year, and at year end, you book a receivable based on what you're expected to get back from FEMA. And that was all done for the 2023 flood in 2023. This year, we found out that at some point, we believe in early 2025, there's additional percentages available that will be paid for the 2023 flood, so that $10,000 is conservative. And 2024, despite our high expenses in the 2024 flood, a lot of our reimbursement is based on payroll and equipment. For example, the tandem dump truck that was used extensively in the 2024 flood, we're getting back $175 an hour for the use of that truck. And so that reimbursement actually, because it's work with labor and material that was already budgeted and spent, that reimbursement actually will exceed our total costs in terms of what we laid out the door in cash for contractors. So there's some real money. Ironically, there's some financial benefit to a flood sometimes. May not always be the case, but it's been the case the last two. Going down a little bit to pay, which is essentially there's an increase. Sorry, there's not an increase. There's basically pay is level funded. A couple years ago, we started splitting out overtime and full-time pay a little bit. Health insurance is reduced because of the plan changes that were enacted. Going down a little further, line 44, vehicle and equipment maintenance is up, and it's really just based on the actuals. I'm just trying to be conservative, make sure we have sufficient funds there. Diesel is down, and that's based on fuel prices as we see them and where we're projected to end this year. Going a little bit more to the second page. Couple of highlights there, the gravel and stone lines, which are 59 and 60. We are quite a bit over on those lines for this year. But about, I've done some math just today, and about $40,000 of that will be moved to the capital fund, because that was the planned ARPA expenditures on Sweet Road. Just working on those year-end tropes as we speak. But the gravel and stone lines in 2025 are not really reflective of upgrades to roads. They're really reflective of expected mud season costs. The capital fund has $150,000 in MOT money, which is for gravel and stone. And that is reflective of a big budget increase to do meaningful road upgrades. And then going down to the very bottom, line 66, our debt is down because we prepaid some of it this year. And then the transfer for the capital is down because there's some additional LLT funds there. We want to stop there and then do the capital next and just have Woody give some additional details about the operational side. There's questions.
Oh, yeah, Bill?
So, Tom, how is it that the wage is staying not getting wages, or working less hours, less people?
Retirement of a veteran.
Yeah.
It's already filled, yeah. Yep.
I guess I have a question about grounds maintenance as it's up 71.4%. Why the sudden increase?
That's a good question. So grounds maintenance is our buildings. But we also have pay out of that line item. Some of the gardening around town. Roundabout, etc. And what happened during the past, really, I think the past 2 summers is there were some, I guess the term I use is orphan gardens. There were some green spaces that were not being taken care of. And so RW did that in 2023 and absorbed the cost. In 2024, RW did the work. And we are paying some difference. Some of that comes out of ground, some of that comes out of summer maintenance and free maintenance, but we sort of wanted to establish a real budget for it, given there seems to be more desire for it. And RW does that with they've got a whole committee that focuses on that. So part of that is a recognition that they essentially deficit spent a little bit.
Other questions or comments? Ian?
Yeah, the next highest percent change from last year looks to be our stormwater fees. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, and then Woody can in more detail. We spent some engineering money this year. There's a development that has a stormwater permit that there were some issues that need to be addressed this year, and that was up on High Mowing, I believe. And it, up alone, it didn't fall under the town's general stormwater permit. And I think those issues are not yet fully resolved, although they're substantially resolved. It's a bit of a dangling participle because when we found out there was this, sort of oddball permit issue, first question, what he asked was, well, we have a general permit for the entire town. Why does this not fall under that? I think the answer he got back was, well, it should, but it turned out it didn't. So we're still sort of working through the vagaries of that regulation. I think that's the correct answer.
That covers some of it. Some of it is when our permits fall due. Yeah, whether it's a renewal year or what have you.
Talking about upland mowing itself,
Correct.
so do you inherit that development's stormwater in this program as part of inheriting the road that was kind of.
You did, and all of us did, yes.
Yeah.
We accepted the road. We unknowingly, I think, accepted the stormwater permit, not knowing that future regulations would come involved.
It's typically the developments that I'm part of, it's the association that is responsible for the stormwater. Right, yes.
Because that- Now, the association's still there, we're co-permittees. And it's. Barry is fighting this same issue through the kind of areas with massive costs.
Now, we should, fortunately, shouldn't be liable. You know, I don't think the town should be liable.
Oh, yeah, I said that from the
Are we
beginning.
fighting that or no?
We're fighting it by, you know. Yeah. I'm of the same, I said the same thing, the road is no different than Perry Lee, Stuart Lane, Twin Peaks, all the roads.
Just for knowledge, any issues that being developers, because I'm still involved in them. It's the house sites, typically it's the house sites and the driveways and the impervious area from those aspects of the development that are typically, some of the roadway is involved in that calculation for stormwater. The bulk of it is the house sites and the driveways on the side, because most stormwater from ponds now, detention pond, retention housing, are below the house sites themselves. Off the deep path, and not off the side. So
It's a,
it's interesting news.
it's a future warning as to if we ever accept any, you know, Pinnacle Ridge or Arnold's development or any of those that might want to come, you know, yeah, anyways, yeah. 20 years ago, I'm sure nobody, when we accepted the road is built to highway standards. It's got the only cul-de-sac in town that's big enough by standards. But you would have never seen this 3-acre stormwater stuff, but yeah.
How
On the Opera Bridge money, we're done with Opera Bridge money?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, that was the Armory Bridge and then what he calls the Dock Murray Bridge on Guptal.
Okay, I didn't know, for some reason I was thinking that but that's our share of the bridge going over Stowe Street. I
No,
thought
that's
some
a-
ARPA funds were going into that.
No, that's,
I know it's mostly state money.
yeah, our costs for that are now done. So we've
Okay.
paid our share of the engineering, which I believe was 5%, and that was a very hefty bill to us. It's already been spent, but
Right.
the rest of the project is entirely state and federal.
It's
So
state and federal.
initially, I was told around when I started, this was a 5% town share for the entire project, and now it's been modified, so that's a hefty, I don't know the full budget for that project, but it's well in the 7 figures. So that's-
Modified up.
So not having that issue to deal with is great.
And that's due to go this summer. It's already been bid. Ready to go.
And I gotta imagine that project's a couple $1,000,000.
Yeah, I think it's in the 3+ range. That'll be a 60-day closure of Stowe Street, all that.
Other questions? Should we go to?
So capital fund has, the $510,000 transfer from the highway fund. We also have $310,000 in there for a new tandem dump truck, and I emailed out on Friday the request to buy the chassis, which would be ordered now pending voter approval. And then also, proposing to transfer in $150,000 in local option tax money, and that 150 is for gravel roads. And the theory, after hashing it out with Bill and Celia, we talked about a couple different models, and one model was, let's hire a contractor and just put it out to bid and say, how many linear feet of road can you do? And that 150 would pay for everything from their labor to the road fabric, to the hauling, to the material. And the answer you get back is not a whole lot of linear feet. 150 grand just doesn't buy you much. And they're getting their material from the same places we are. So we thought about a couple different alternatives, and what we came up with was that $150,000 we believe is best used to pay contractors for the haul. And that would buy us a substantial amount of material, which would be placed at the ice center, and then the road crew during the season, and really the season to build the gravel road is pretty long, would overlay the roads and do the work themselves. And if that didn't work out perfectly, the LLT plan has $150,000 in 2025 and only $50,000 in 2026 to give us a year to essentially hit the pause button and make sure we can use all the material. And so we might get into the summer at some point and realize that, 5 other things happened. We might want to hire a contractor to do, maybe the ditching and some of the brush trimming, some of the work you do in advance. But we thought having the budget, and I think the general land use is to have a contractor do the hauling, and looking at rates for material and rates for hauling, we think that gets us about 5,000 yards at the ice center, which is a pretty substantial amount too. And then we pick and choose our roads. And to some extent, it's not so much the desire to pick a road and redo it. It's more that we now have a lot of material to do overlays, and sometimes in selected spots. Something that, our crew, when they run the grader, what they say to me is there are spots where there's just not a whole lot to grade. So that's one thought. The second thought is the capital fund has had a deficit balance for some time. It's been closed a little bit, but establishing a little bit of money from the LOT each year to just slowly but surely build that fund over time, and that also affects our liquidity. Would be nice to slowly but surely clear that deficit. So 175 in total from the LOT. Plus the amount from the LOT to service the debt on the 310, and we can issue debt internally from our tax stabilization fund. So really just a third of that amount. But of our, if we can expect $750,000, $800,000 from the LOT, we're putting a little over 275 into the highway side of things. And then moving on to paving, level funding that at 450. I tend to think that after paving Kennedy and Ashford this year, that all of our main traveled roads are in reasonable condition. I think those two were pretty bad, and they were bad because we waited to do the water line, so they were not paid for some years for a reason. Top of Barnes Hill Road, and Newland Flats are a priority. At some point, we might need to think about Armory Drive. Because getting to the Armory is pretty rough. Last year, we talked about milling and grinding, shimming Newland Flats and doing some work on there and potentially paving the corner. Didn't get to that this year in part. Met with a contractor out there and basically, didn't have the sub base, so we simply don't have the sub base on the road to pave that corner yet.
Where it turns into.
Yeah, where it turns into Ripley. Because that's I guess a historic issue for mud season, that uphill there around the curve is typically bad and you don't get in here to see why it's bad. If you drive that road on your left, there's a pond that's above the road. It's obviously gonna be wet. Think we can chip away at that and maybe be in a position to pave it 2025, more likely 2026, but we can work on improving that road as part of this. Have some money in for bridge and culverts, which I think is traditional, have some money in for the shop, which is traditional. And then again, that request to buy the dump truck, order the dump truck this year pending voter approval, but our thought is to get a tandem dump truck, which involves 15-yard loads. Just because we're hauling from further and further, and we always do a fair amount of our own hauling. I get occasional people that call and they question the town's hauling, and they'd like me to. Some people want us to do it all, some people think it should all go out to bid and we shouldn't be in the hauling business. Part of my answer is, if it's raining hard, you can haul. Can't necessarily do a whole lot else some days, and there are also days when people are out, whether it's sick or vacation, and you don't have a big crew to work with, and you can't always do a whole lot with 2 people on the road, but you can haul. And we certainly use the material. So I think we're in this business for the long term, and we're hauling from further, and that's the reality of our life. So I think having a tandem dump truck makes the most sense. We've also priced out the smaller 6-wheel dump, and Woody, I think that holds what, 9 yards?
Yeah, less than that.
Less than that, 7.5. And those are $275. So we're adding a lot of capacity here for not a lot of money in comparison. A lot of money, obviously, in the grand scheme of things, but you're almost doubling your capacity by going with the tandem. So I think that just makes, on a lot of levels, it just makes pure economic sense.
Number of less trips over long hauls, probably gonna save you money versus.
Yeah, and the reality is, now we've got the GPS software now, so we can see, and one of our crew members hauls for the day. Without overtime, 5 loads, it's about all we get. Like you're going down to South Barry.
And if we could just get in the record for the tandem, if the tandem is the route you go and choose to order it. To make sure that the operator comfort is taken care of, with a good seat, a good console, a good armrest. I promised the operator, we will not scam bond. If we're spending 300,000+, you're not gonna buy him a bucket to sit on it. Just make sure somebody writes that down. So I would say, cabin comfort is important if you're riding in a dump truck all day long, 300+ miles.
Put a boom box on the thing.
Yeah.
Well, the last vehicle we ordered, the armrest for the operator was apparently a big point of contention. The vehicle didn't come with one built in. So we told them to go pick and choose. Now you got 10 to choose from, pick and choose, but I get it. If you're in a truck 8 hours a day,
Yeah.
It matters.
I will say, as long as I'm speaking, the paving, I've been contacted by the folks who live on Pinnacle Ridge. They wanted to come speak to you. They would like, we've stopped on Lonesome Trail, turns into Pinnacle Ridge. We stopped the paving and we paved Lonesome Trail.
I wanna say 50 to 75 feet short of the town line. And that where we turn around, we stop the paving. So there's a 50, 75-foot section of gravel road. That's ours, that connects to Pinnacle Ridge. They would like us to pave our remaining section up to the town line. They have no intention to pave theirs, but they would like to take that 75 feet out of their mud season type of issues.
Did they live on our side of the line?
No, no houses. I paved to where we turned around and seemed like a logical thing. Never thought for once anybody would say anything. For the fact that it's a paved road, our truck likes to stay on our roads to turn around, so it backs there. If it's paved for the next 75 feet, we most likely won't treat it with salt. We will still turn around where we turn around. But as bad as mud seasons are, they seem to, and it wouldn't, it won't amount to a big price tag, but they seem to adamant, and they may in fact want to come to talk to folks. Unless you say pay better.
But they're still residents?
Oh, no, there are.
Oh, there are residents.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's $1 million homes. out there.
Yeah.
I said by line, you meant the line between town and
I'm
private.
sorry.
Oh, okay.
That was my.
I didn't know Stowe had a little finger down.
They use similar requests from the residents of Ring Road.
Yeah. So,
Sure, there've been a lot of the private road requests for that.
Other questions? Chris had a hand up. I'll give mine to Woody first, which is just recognizing your bosses here and recognizing you probably helped collaborate on this budget. Are there things you, in your ideal world wish list that you felt like either we're not paying enough attention to that should be on our radar, or you think are worthy of additional consideration?
Mowers are in the rec budget. We should have a little bit of money left in the downtown grant that paid for some of Randall Street Park Row sidewalk. We might have enough to do the Elm Street sidewalk on the beer cellar side. That would be nice to finish that up. That would leave us with really only two small sections of sidewalk in town that are still 4-footers, which is too narrow. That would be Wallace Street and parts of North Main Street. So if there was sidewalk money for that, the bridge stuff, Alec did a thorough bridge analysis. I think Tom's included work for the Loomis Hill Bridge.
2026, I believe.
2026, and some other bridge work has got some big price tags on it, but none of them are in dire straits.
On sidewalks, something I've thought about, is if you, and this is not for 2025, but just conceptual, is that you get a pretty good price if you do a lot of linear feet. So something I've thought about is, somehow rating all the sidewalks and all the ones that are poor. If you could do those in a summer, you'll get a much better price per foot. The challenge would be is that to get that price, you'd need to cannibalize the crew from road work and have the crew carrying out the existing sidewalks and maybe doing a little of the prep work and the cleanup. But that's a future conversation.
When you mentioned that, I was thinking kind of along where I would be concerned about. I don't want to have to hire this work out because that comes pretty expensive and. We have to kind of budget our money where we can.
Chris, did you have a question?
Yeah. Question, comments. First comment, the other benefit of having a bigger truck. Those little truck, believe it or not, very much feels a bigger truck. You're hauling places much. Like spending the same amount of fuel. Second, question, Woody.
Yeah.
Have you guys having a discussion about a triathlon versus a tandem.
No, I mean, it's been baby steps, I think, to get to the tandem, which I think is a good thing. For the most part, most of our roads, you can turn that tandem around.
Yeah, I didn't want to. Setting it up, I'm saying it would be difficult with a triathlon.
I would imagine.
Just around a couple of yards. The other question is about paving. I know in the past we've had difficulties with our paving projects, perhaps to some degree, getting contractors on board because we're always kind of at the 11th hour. Does having this local options tax money, I think I kind of already know the answer, give us any more ability to get ahead to these guys to try to get everything else started.
Well, if, for the most part, we haven't put things out to bid, the local contractor, this paving works us in, we're very rarely apt to get a May or June slot, we're more apt to get October, yeah. And that's the way it's worked. We've had a few grant paving projects where we've had deadlines in there that, I think Wickham did show Street, they had by the July 1st deadline or something like that. For the most part, we've been able to fit things in. I think when the board decided to throw 80,000 or so at up the road this last time, Pike was real good about saying, we'll be there. So, and for the most part, the paving season does seem to have to extend into probably December.
Last question is, on Blush Hill, if we did extend that extra distance, and you're suggesting that the towns doesn't want to commit to having to plow and seeing that as well as alternate, so is there a bigger have to be than one you with kind of words to say, this is really the end, you guys agree to take it, we'll pave it, but you're gonna agree to plow it and see it as part of your.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to how the operator wants to stop. I think if he's perhaps plowing and sanding, you might want to turn around at there where they're looking for. Yeah, if he's just salting, he or she might choose to back into the Hagen, it's right there. I'm just, as I said, I would prefer our vehicles stay on our roads and turn around.
Well, I chuckled when you said that it's $1 million housing up there. These days, that's not a huge. Kids chicken out.
Are there questions or comments on the highway or capital needs budgets?
One other comment, we haven't finalized anything. We had a meeting on Friday. About the downtown grant program. So grant applications are due in mid-February and sort of at a brainstorming session. And what we're thinking about is, and you're limited to the area you're designated to downtown, which essentially is Main Street and frontages down to Horseshoe, I believe, and then Stowe Street. So pretty limited area, and over on Bidwell, but we talked about a flashing light. And that would be down a little past Park Row is where we envisioned. We talked about on Bidwell Lane, perhaps adding sidewalks related to the Wesley Church parking. We thought we'd throw in the Wesley Church paving into that grant application too. With Rivettos and Waterbury, we talked about some additional wayfinding signs with QR codes. We think is what he said, that the current grant, we can finish the sidewalks in Elm Street, maybe do some striping on that road, which we've talked about with residents. And there may be a few other small ideas thrown in there, but we think we've got the basis for an application.
Do you recall, is that a 20% matching grant?
I believe it is, yes.
And do we have that budgeted somewhere, or would we need to pull it?
I think all that would come from existing lines in the operating budget. And part of that is the applications are due in February. I don't think we do work in 2025. The one flashing crosswalk light.
So it sounds like this.
Yeah, we've talked about, we'd like to put one with the bridge here, but it's outside of this near the downtown. Yeah, it includes town hall, doesn't include Back Row, and includes the two homes across, the vacant homes across the street, and that's where it ends.
I was gonna ask for clarity on the grant. Is this the same grant I sat through a meeting about? Was none of down? What was that one? There was a meeting on a Sunday night. You attended.
No, that was a different meeting.
It's a different grant, this grant, a different grant.
That's Duncan and Katie and Better Connections. Grant.
Better connections. And this was what?
This was
Downtown
the-
transportation,
Yeah.
DTI.
You mentioned the sidewalks. What's the status with the new lights? What's the part that's originally part of that?
They've been bought, paid for. Still awaiting approved shop drawings, but they've been paid. And the contractor, the supplier has said you should never accept anything without job drawings, which I agree, even though we paid for them. But he anticipates we will have that for summer, or spring construction. That was $34,000 to change just for the 4 lights.
And this is to match the.
Matt, they're shorter, but yes, they match the big street.
And don't ask Woody how long this has been in the works.
And we did buy,
2 years before I left.
we did buy some garbage and recycling cans, buy them for $16,000. So,
So if we wind up putting sidewalks on Goodwill and putting a couple of lights in. It does need to be in the budget for 2025, as it turns out, maybe 2035.
Right. Any other questions or comments?
I just want to thank Bill and Celia. They yeah, as I said the other day, I just want to make sure I say it again, that the detail I get on the funding requests is great. It's a voluminous, and that's what I need. So they just do a great job in that.
Thank you, Woody. Any
yeah.
other comments?
anything else?
You can stick around for the local option piece if you want.
Yeah, yeah, are you giving me some big piles of money now?
We just-
I'll take it.
We'll name another road after.
Okay.
Bill.
So that moves us to local option tax. We have a printed title.
So you want to do the truck first?
Oh, sorry, truck.
So I did send a quote to buy the chassis, which is the first part that we want to get that signed order in when we can. When we think if we sign and order that, which we would pay for after voter approval in 2025, it used to be that you paid for the chassis when it arrived, now you pay, we've had that front. But that would be after voter approval. And then you get the chassis, if you're lucky, a year from now, maybe 9 months, and then the body is another 6 to 9 months. Our last vehicle, which came into service earlier this year, May, June, July, somewhere in there, we ordered that late 2022. So it was about 18 months to get the vehicle. So you wanna. And all the manufacturers have no issue, ordering a vehicle pending voter approval, because if the voters say no, they will turn around and resell that probably at a higher price in 3 seconds.
So to be clear that we're looking at the request for the 310 with proposal to finance over 3 years from local option tax.
Local option tax to take away, yeah.
Which is why I jumped to the next agenda item, but are you looking for authorization for this
Yes, to
tonight,
sign,
pending voter approval?
yes.
Questions or comments from the board?
So this is, again, was in the public works capital needs budget we just saw.
Yeah.
And then also is currently penciled into the local option tax plan as a funding mechanism.
Yep.
Tom, would there be, and I understand why you're proposing. Sorry, could you just restate the funding arrangement in terms of where we are from and how we're financing it?
So the vehicle would cost 310 in total. We have. Around $1 million on paper in our tax stabilization fund, and some of that has already been loaned internally, but most of that is available. And so my proposal would be that we would actually use the tax stabilization fund to finance it, pay for it, and then the local option tax would reimburse that fund. So we're paying ourselves. That being said, I wouldn't move the money until it's needed. So I spread this out as payments over 3 years, but it would likely be a different. You know, it's obviously gonna be a different time frame depending on when you actually need the money. So why issue the debt when the cash need isn't there? But I just tried to use averages here to show as best I can the commitments, if you will.
And is it correct that's the same proposal as for the new fire truck that we've already approved?
Yeah, the fire truck is different because we believe that'll be available. It's already been approved. We believe that would be actually available this year.
And again, the proposal goes to use tax stabilization money, pay back over 3 years from local option. Other questions or comments?
One other piece, I modified this just before the meeting to take out the funding for the skate park. But I realized I made a mistake in that the 85,000 initially for the skate park included money for the basketball court.
Right.
So
I'm
Well, you-
facilitating us. We're not on local option tax yet, but noted. So on the quote, you're asking for authorization from the board for this.
that's to move forward on the purchase pending voter approval.
Okay, so if someone on the board is comfortable, we would take a motion. Authorizing the municipal manager to execute this pending voter approval, which also just naming for all of us means we're committing to including this in both budgets. That we're planning to bring to voters for approval.
I make a motion to approve, purchase of a new 15-yard tandem dump truck for the purchase price of $310,000, pending voter approval. Town meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Tom, do you need anything else in the motion besides the authorization? All right, now to local option tax, where I had jumped ahead. So local option tax. So we have a handout titled 2025 capital plan, which Tom is informing me is actually local option tax for the purposes of this discussion. So just to name for everyone, the document titled capital plan is what we're discussing. And then this was again shown to us in draft 2 meetings ago. There was a ranking exercise for select board to weigh in on priorities. But starting out with Tom, you can just say what you were saying about skate park again.
So yeah, the original was $85,000, 42.5 over 2 years. And I taken that out for purposes of discussing this thing, but I realized we still need money in the budget for the basketball courts. And Bill, I believe that's around 20 to repave.
So in that, do you have 2 new baskets? One is in really good shape.
Yeah, that's part of it. They're not crazy. They're more expensive than you think, but I think that 20 will encompass it all.
So hearing from that, would we propose to put $20,000 back in for next year, assuming that earlier tonight we heard that construction is likely in 2025, do we feel like that's? Is there other input you want to share, Tom, or specific input from the board in terms of weighing and or adjusting other proposals in this draft?
I just want to mention that later this week, was an internal meeting about the recreational facility and talking with an architect about some options there, so I can ground truth that $60,000. And that may not be money that would all be spent in 1 year either. And then again, the pool, which is slated for $55,000, that assumes that the Flexicoat surface survives the winter. And if it doesn't, we might certainly paint the pool using the different paint we use, but it's far from $55,000. I think it's, $3,000 to $5,000. But we're hopeful it'll last the winter, and then we'll feel confident doing that. The card access / security system. Staff want more than that. They want more than a card access system. They want panic buttons as part of that. And a couple other security improvements. I think we can start with the card access system. I think that'd be a notable change for people. I think it would take some time to implement anyway. And I think that's pretty good security improvement for staff, and I think there's also a couple of benefits. So I think that's a good step forward in 2025, and then depending on that, we can talk about some other options in the future. Okay.
I just would like to know if that card access system includes a door lock on the inside of the.
It should include every door that we want. So basically, the short version is, it would be the outside doors, obviously here, library. It would include potentially a system for these doors. So the theory being that if we want to rent the building on the weekend, you have access just to the steel room, that's all you get. So yeah, it's a pretty complex system. I keep saying card access, and I shouldn't, because I've always thought of the RFID cards as really cheap. They're not. So it's more likely, there could be cards, but it's more likely you get a 4-digit code or a 5-digit code, whatever the case may be.
I just to be clear though, what I'm asking for is a lock on the inside of the double doors that lead directly into our office. That I'm asking if it includes a manual lock. I don't want to fumble for my key or put in a code. I want to flip a switch and lock whoever's threatening me in the airlock.
So there's a few options. We don't necessarily need to use manual locks with this system, but you can also set the system so the doors automatically lock at certain times. So if you're here after 4:30, it's locked.
May I ask for a priority that there's a lock because
Yeah.
there's no lock now, so we're not excluding a manual lock. One doesn't exist, right? I'm asking for.
Which
Just
The main double doors, the 2 doors that lead directly into our office, locked from outside. There is no lock inside.
from the inside.
From
Okay,
the
understand.
inside.
Sure, yeah.
So, I think that that's a big variable in giving staff the peace of mind that they're asking for. I think this is part of it too. Don't get me wrong, but, something we can switch and click and not fumble for who put their keys where or whose code are we, in that moment of panic, something very easy to use.
Yes, and every company that does this, they do a whole walk.
Perfect. Love it. Okay. Mike?
To me, 4-digit code sounds like a better option than having a card. Just like someone like you, if you've got your card and you're all the way in Waterbury, you're sunk. You don't want to have to travel back to.
Yeah, I mean, it can be both, depending on the cost.
But I could see. Everyone, even if you want to put it, a little card in your thing saying it's 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it's gonna be. That to me just seems like a better alternative. Especially for people who don't have necessarily, like, got their wallet or whatever.
Oh, and I'll note, we're not designing the system tonight. We're asking if we want a line item in the budget, Kate.
I would say, just for sake of this conversation, that 20 grand for security systems on the low side already.
Right.
And if it makes the people who work in this office feel more comfortable to have a security system, it's the local option tax. Let's just spend the 20 grand. And I think that if Karen wants a Deadbolt, get it.
Karen's not the voice, there's a safety committee. So
Yeah, I
then
was
they
gonna
have
say,
a
that
voice.
was my
Woody's
question.
on the safety committee, he can speak to their priorities. I was just simply wanting to clarify whether this key system, as it's described here, key card access system included that type of security, that's all. Then ask for it to include it, they did it.
I just think by all means. We can get a Deadbolt.
We did have a security walkthrough by a company that SIZA something. And they came up with a lot of things that we could do. Locking doors automatically, what have you, security cameras, there's a whole list, holistic protection, you name it, it's on the list. Give me some of the LLT money.
Yeah, I think start with doors, but cameras are around 1,000, 1,500 per. And if you start looking at cameras, you can come up with a bunch of them really quick. So I think maybe that's phase 2.
And the cost for like storage, I think that's where things really fall down.
Most of the systems now that they're package deals, so they self-store their own data for a period of time, and so. You know, it might be 2 weeks, so if something happens, you've got 2 weeks to get in the system and copy that data to somewhere else.
Yeah, I believe we put on with it. Some spots. We do have a little bit of availability to build out on what the historical society has for a system, camera wise. So we can go a little ways without doing much as far as storage and having a central station. Once we go past like 9 more cameras, then we get threshold really after. More work. So.
Questions or comments?
I just, again, to say, I think 20 grand is on the low side. And I think it's sort of fine. Updates to the town offices. I think there are some more pertinent discussions about other line items that I'd like to get to.
Wait, are those line items in 2025 local option tax?
Yes, they are.
And what might they be?
They might be $75,000 for a pickleball court.
Last week, I loudly exclaimed that giving the skate park $50,000 to $60,000 was, to me, unacceptable. And I feel the exact same way about 75,000 for a pickleball court 2 years in a row. So 150 total.
Yeah.
What I'd like to see is the rec committee get public input on this before we decide to spend money on it.
Other questions or comments?
Just agree with the idea that, public input for a light item like a pickleball court is a very wise idea.
Other comments? So I'm hearing from the board and taking off my facilitator hat would say echo personally only in that the ratio of times I've ever heard a comment from a constituent 0 to money ratio is perhaps the most skewed I've seen. I guess I'll name, we do still, so just going down the list, or anyway, so that's my comment. So I'm hearing from the board, we're not enthusiastic about this at this moment. We would potentially consider it in a future year after an input process, but it feels premature for 2025. Does that feel accurate?
That's 3 of the 5.
4 of the 5.
I'll X that out.
And I guess my question would be, I do think there's value in potentially recognizing that we have rec facility planning and estimating on the docket. I guess, again, for me, speaking just for myself, like, we have heard about a rec facility since I've lived in town, let alone been on the board, so to me, $75,000 for a recreation investment, I'm not opposed to, and I'm not even saying pickleball is the wrong one, I just don't know yet if it's the right one. So recognizing that, I think there's gonna be compelling need in the future. I think, again, a large portion of that might still be directed to recreation, but yeah, I'm not sure about that use personally. Other, Mike?
Your 20,000 estimate for your security, do you have kind of a good sense of that being a reasonable number? I'm sure you've done some research on some of these companies.
I think the challenge is you meet with vendors and they want to start with the Cadillac and you go from there. So I think it's in the range. There's also a grant through our insurance that we can get, and it's oftentimes heavily focused on reducing workers' compensation claims, but it's to reduce your risk in general. And having had some preliminary conversations, they're interested in funding some of this. It's a matching grant, but if we have the money anyway, that's our match. So it's, I believe it's a $5,000 grant in total. So, sorry, $5,000 in total, you get $2,500. So really our budget, I think, is more like 22.5.
That's from, that grant would be from.
Through the LCT, through insurance. Yeah, they set aside a little money each year, and it's more or less a gimme grant. If you apply for it, you tend to get it, or at least they'll say no, but you'll negotiate some items.
There's no state grants for security systems for towns.
Not to my knowledge. And if the Historic Society has some additional funding they want to contribute, we'll happily take it, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Other questions? Again, just to name, we have gravel roads, which we just discussed previously. Again, the fire truck from previously, highway capital fund, again, in budget we just reviewed. The rec facility planning and estimating. We've just, of this group here, said we do not support the proposed rec infrastructure for pickleball. We have the public works vehicle, we just authorized pending voter approval. We're saying 20,000 for the skate park. There's remaining money for the housing trust fund, the security system we just discussed, and the pool tend to be going well this year. I was at 710, now minus 75,000. So that's the balance. Other questions or considerations?
I just want to point out, the rec committee has been at length talking about a recreation facility. And that will not be cheap, obviously, and so I feel like we're taking rec funds away. I guess to the point that I just want to make is funneling all our efforts to one thing might be wise in some senses, as opposed to just trying to spread out our rec funds to a number of different projects through town, because the rec facility, which the rec committee has been focusing on, is a big one. And I think, the rec committee is thinking of, creative ways of achieving this rec facility recently. So I just want to point that out, that there's a lot of energy, effort, and thought going into that line item right there.
Is there other budget changes or proposals you would propose?
Just to round out the math, if we're taking out pickleball and adding in $20,000 in the skate park line, but for the paving, we would then spend $635 next year. If we assume nothing else changes, we would end the year with a balance of $235. And again, that's conservative. I think we'll get more than $750 in revenues next year, and you certainly don't have to spend it all.
I would say, and to note, just fund balance would go to fund balance, to be allocated in the future.
If we do have a fund balance, I would just see money go into roads. 'Cause we always fight budgets for road, rebuilds and stuff like that, and we could just, if we have some excess money, we could just get ahead of the curve by using some of that, at least some of that money toward roads.
Ian, were you roundabout suggesting that, okay, so we knock off 20 grand for the paving of the basketball court, that leaves us with 55,000 from the once was pickleball. Are you suggesting that we inject that into recreation facility planning?
I think that's a tough question only because I don't know exactly how that will be spent, if we need more than $60,000, to be quite frank.
And neither do I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so part of me says yes, because everything costs more than you think it is. But I think it'd be a little bit foolish to just initially say, of course, let's do that. At this point, at least. Not knowing exactly how that would be spent.
In response to Ian's comment, I still think that a large expensive rec building is still a very controversial, line item. I don't think, you look at when what was it, 6 or 7 years that we did this bill, that we went through the whole rec building process, somewhere around there, there was not definitely uniform agreement on, to do that. Yeah, including myself, I would say, get Ben and Jerry's to give us 13 mil and, give them the naming rights to our rec building, I'd be all for it.
I have I guess, a little bit of an audible request, because I hope to get this grant funded, but I'm not feeling confident about that, but behind this building, the pedestals for the utilities were built 2 feet above the 100-year floodplain, which was the standard. And I've talked about wanting to raise those to, either at a minimum, the 500-year floodplain, but I think the answer is we want to talk to a contractor and raise them where we can. And not so much worry about an exact measure of the floodplain, but if we can, there may be some physical limit, but Bill's been working on that a little bit. Said I'm feeling less confident that there's grant funds for that, and so that's a project I think about that. It strikes me as, in the event of a flood, relatively cheap insurance that we offered out of this building for 3 times, and that wasn't a luxury the town had after Irene, and I shudder to think what it would be like if we didn't have, in the July flood, AC in the building, and December flood heat in this building. It's never mind power.
I'd be much more apt to get the slush, if there's slush, which apparently there is going to be, by removing some of the money, that if there's that money available, I think that's a very reasonable price.
I don't know what that's gonna cost yet. I'm not really in the ballpark.
I spoke with a contractor today, he said whatever number we pick, 2 feet, 3 feet high or whatever, it's all custom work anyway.
Yeah.
So it did say we're not cheap. Yeah, for the units that size, viable.
The generator is higher.
Oh, it generates. Well, it's a generator.
In terms of input for the board and next steps, are we interested in revisiting a more concrete number on that at a subsequent meeting?
Yeah, here.
We have that in the week.
He has tech measured things last week, today, or this week, not last week, last Monday. So I'm not sure when they've had it, but yeah.
So if not, the Jan, we're in the process of getting there. Cool. So it seems like there's interest in considering that. Is there any other next steps? I had one question. Did the safety committee come up with like a list of recommendations like A, B, C, D?
Yeah,
They came up with a whole list of things that the gentleman recommended. Security cameras, locking doors, panic buttons, ballistic protection, the windows for the workspaces. There's a huge list. Well, not just.
And those have cost estimates.
I am garnering cost estimates. I'm about halfway down. Until I had some long discussions about how much ballistic protection we need. Do we need to stop a 9mm or do we need to stop a minute? So we're halfway. We've got the camera price, we've got the ballistic film on the windows. And depending on the Windows price. So this is all those one of it.
I guess personally, I'd just say it feels like the cameras haven't come up, so I would just be curious about looking at that number next week is my other, if that's strongly supported.
That number is available, the camera numbers was 9,000.
Right.
Perfect. For 5 or 6 more cameras, I can't remember, covered the doors and the town clerk's area. The library does not want any cameras inside their spaces. Covered the parking lot, I believe.
All right, any other next steps? We're a little over time, on that in terms of things. Oh, sorry.
Tom, I just wanted to ask, so this year, we allocated. To the housing trust fund. About 100,000, why, there's, I guess this is a elongated question, 75 for 2025. And then it drops down to 25 for 2026, and then it bumps back up to 100 for 2027. What was the thinking behind that?
So the thinking was, we've got money allocated, we don't have program yet, right? So I think getting that program in place in 2025 is gonna take a little bit of time. So my thinking is, once you have that program, if we use the VHIP example, allocating, whether it's $30,000 or $50,000, but allocating that money for, 4, 5, 6 units, I think is gonna take a while. So there's just my internal judgment about how fast we could spend the money.
Gotcha.
But that being said, that's just my thought process. I could be completely wrong one way or the other. There's no real analysis beyond that you can put into it at this stage, I think.
Yep. So I'm pleased to hear some of the discussion here about local options tax money, because I'll tell you, since it's been initiated, seems like I'm hearing that word come out a lot. And I think I've expressed my concerns before about, in my opinion, use that money initially to kind of right the ship of our responsibilities that we have in our lap right now. Make sure that we have kind of a program moving forward to maintain what we have under our umbrella right now. And then your point to the pickleball court. So the rec director was here the other day making a comment about having kids in 4 different places, and that discussion hasn't escaped me yet. I'm kind of thinking to myself, we should be concerned about that to some degree, because it's, it raises the risk of something happening somewhere in that midst with all those kids kind of spread around, and it's certainly no word on the curve. I don't know that a rec building is inevitable, but from a priority standpoint, remember I told you I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, I just in passing mentioned this to one of the contractors I worked for. His immediate response to me was, I'll send my guys down and myself down for a week for nothing. To work on building something that's clear in fact, and then build that route. That's a whole topic, another topic of discussion, to see whether something like that could be done. To try to, number one, save the town, achieve that goal, and not be burdened with the cost of doing it, lesser. So, number one, kind of temper ourselves on continuing to throw this LOT word out there. Focus on, priorities like, if it's possible, to investigate this, some form of a rec building, whether it not be the whole blown one that we were gonna do before, but maybe a portion of it, with potential to add on in future years. But I think to Tom's point, Tom's in this affordable housing thing, I think what he's suggesting, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that you're right, it's gonna take some time to get that up and running, so use that additional revenue that you have now to kind of put ourselves in a better position, right? Lying down and whatever, pay cash for trucks or whatever, so that when that does come around, you have at least some revenue, if maybe more, to help out with that. And that sounds like reasonable, logical decision.
Any other things? Tom, feel good on next steps? And we'll plan to just revisit this briefly at a future meeting.
Sure.
Alrighty, with that, I'm losing my reputation for keeping us on time, but I will do my best. Have your say day final dates and location. So this is our full use of Duxbury's naming convention. We're just giving them due credit and structure to essentially do a town meeting early. So we are prepping our budget and warning now so that we will have that ready. And the two dates we had were January 11th, which is a Saturday, and 13th, which was a Monday. And Tom, it sounded like we have some updates on the locations.
Yes, the Legion is available on the 11th, so I've booked that. And it sounds like tables and chairs, they're all prepared for us. And then I reached out to Monica Callan at the Grange, because at the time we weren't sure that was gonna be an option, and by the time we connected, I'd already booked the Legion, but the Grange is available for the 13th, if there was a desire to have that meeting in Waterbury Center.
May I speak on that?
Yep.
I think it's important since the joining of the two towns, that if we're going to have two town meeting styles, one held in the village and one held in the center, might go a long way to continuing to connect the two communities. And the Grange Hall, I'm glad that Tom reached out and that there is an option to hold one there.
Thanks. Other questions or comments? I'm not making eye contact with Bill Sheplick over the use of the word joining in towns, and we'll just note that we have two separate utilities. Tom is the manager for both, and I'm moving right along with our agenda this evening. But for the 13th and the potential location at the Grange, other input, hearing one strong endorsement, other thoughts? So
It's a smart idea.
it's new and different. I did ask if they have Wi-Fi, and it sounds like it could. All right, so we had said that would be Monday, the 13th, which is our standard meeting at 7 PM. We will do a new location to make it fun and different for both the same info, and then Saturday, the 11th at 10 AM at the American Legion. Any other discussion items on this? We should make a fun fancy poster and share some info about it.
Is pie recommended? At one-
I think
one of both?
pie at the Saturday would be great. We'll need a logistics plan.
Yeah, I mean, we've gotta advertise that pretty heavily. I'm not making 55.
Oh, yeah, no, I was trying to separate.
We'll hold you to 40.
It's always appreciated, Mr. Chef.
That's pretty, they bring their own pots.
Yeah.
Yeah, bring your own pot.
Yeah.
Oh, let's
So you
try.
don't have to make food. Just encourage people.
Okay, BYO pie and enthusiastic.
BYO.
Set up and like paper plates and that.
Right,
yeah.
I for breakfast.
Exactly.
Rotary.
Yeah, we do. Rotary does.
Do you think we could announce it at an upcoming Rotary meeting, that since they have such a storied reputation for excellent pies and civic dialogue, that they might all want to be sure to be there?
Oh, I'm sure Rotarians will be there, but they usually go to a lot of, civic type meetings, but I think, we'd always have to, because we're charging people to get in for pie for breakfast, and it's all, the Rotarians, they say, Mike, you have to do 3 apple pies, and, everyone kind of has an assignment, so we also have a mix of pies too.
And we could do that again for the benefit of, how do you say it?
Yeah.
You'll ask tomorrow morning? All right. Okay, so we have a final date and time. I will say we don't have a total outreach plan yet in my mind. I don't know if we're gonna solve that tonight. But we should start spreading the word, in terms of telling people to save the date.
So the pie
Do it
is,
through text, my God.
Yeah, we could,
Yeah.
maybe. Text my God.
so the pie is just for the
Saturday.
Saturday meeting.
Yep.
But again, Kane, you know, you were a little critical of my pancakes. You have yet to bring a single pie.
Was I, no, I wasn't critical of your pancakes. It was the crepes. Who was making the crepes?
An E-Fed commissioner who shall remain nameless. But,
The town manager and the select board chair make just fine pancakes, okay?
all right, so further, pie strategy strategy, to come, but we have, confirmed dates and times. Thank you, Tom and all. And any other items on this? Lisa, we're final?
I've been waiting. I'm very eager to get the word out of.
Hit the button.
Good.
And to now, like, where are the things?
Great, I'm happy to, give you a quote about how fun and awesome it's gonna be, if anyone wants to do that. All right, any other items on this? All right, I would move to ACO or Animal Control Officer fee structure. We do have some materials. And I don't know if you would like to speak to this.
I can, but state statute changed, the state in the process collected $5 per license, and beginning in 2025, they're gonna collect $7 per license. So rather than take the rather than take the $2 out of what I collect now, which is not much, I was proposing raising dog license fees, not dramatically, but I also would really like to keep them in $5 increments, because I'm sick of running to the bank for once, but if anybody sees the structure that I created and the comparables and doesn't like some of the increases, then it's certainly up for discussion. So I did give you the previous ordinance, which I will point out, I never charged a $10 late fee. I don't know how that slipped by me. And neither did Carla. I just inherited her fee structure. And then I gave you a sheet that would demonstrate the proposed new one as part of the ordinance. And then I just did you a quick side by side, just to make things a little easier to see, so. I reached out to some of the neighboring towns today to ask them what their fee structures were, and I only heard back from one person. And her response wasn't even really clear. She said, whatever's in state statute. And I was like, so you charge $7 and that's all you charge? I mean, that didn't make any sense to me, so. I can't provide you those comparables because I don't have them. I'm not sure they're even relevant, but I thought maybe you would ask me, so.
So you want. So the proposal is, I'm sorry, I'm having a tough time understanding.
Use this one. Yeah, so on top is what we charge now,
Okay,
11, 15, 13, 19, 9, and 11. And the bottom is what I propose, 15, 20, 20, 25, 10, and 15. And the increases are in red.
So are we having on this proposed one, still the animal control officer costs if we ever did hire a animal control
Yeah,
officer?
that doesn't change.
Yeah, I'm
Because-
only asking for license fees. I'm not making any
Okay, because
changes
it's
to the.
still in there where it was before, and I assume it's just there in case we ever wind up hiring one.
Or in the absence of one, if I have to deal with an issue.
Yeah, this is only the fee schedule. I
Right.
did not touch the ordinance at all.
Because everything, you know, that you as animal control officer would be other duties as assigned, so.
No, if I
It would be a
respond,
cost to the.
if I respond to a call, then I'm gonna charge them my hourly rate and my.
Oh, charge fee, okay. I got you. We're not gonna have to pay you additional.
I just heard the date is 12/24, so it's going well. Any further questions or discussion?
so the proposal is to increase the fees.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that, but that would take an amendment of the ordinance, correct?
No,
No,
the ordinance specifically says that fees can be amended without changing the ordinance itself.
Other questions or comments?
So I had a confused question about part of the ordinance.
We'll flag it, but I'll just say for tonight, we haven't warned the full ordinance, so if we need to make a change, we're not able to do it tonight. So tonight, we're just looking at the fees, but if you want to let us know quickly what it is for the future.
So in the first paragraph of we talked about, town fees. Got the right here, okay, so section 2. Or 11, yeah. Boarding the $20 plus $20 a day plus any and all costs liable to the town boarding fees. And so what it sounds like in a nutshell is that if somebody's dog has to be impounded, because it's not licensed or whatever, if they get it licensed, maybe I'm misunderstanding, but I read it a few times. It sounds like the town will reimburse what it sounds like a $200 fee to the boarding kennel. If the animal owner brings their dog and gets their license, does the right thing, that the town will reimburse the dog for the boarding fees of up to like $200.
No, they pay the boarding fees.
Okay.
If they want,
It doesn't say
if they
that
want
in
to
here.
remove an unlicensed dog, they pay boarding fees plus a $200 deposit.
Okay.
We'll reimburse that $200. So what we don't reimburse is our $20 per day on top of that.
I didn't know if there should be more clarification there, because that's where I misunderstood it. It didn't say anything about them having to pay the boarding fee of $200.
Any other questions? If not, I think we'd be looking for a motion to adopt the updated animal control ordinance fee structure as presented.
The motion to approve the updated fee structure for animal control issues
No, just for licensing.
for license.
Second, any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion passes. We are on to our next item, which is ARPA funding motion. Tom, do you want to speak to
I
that?
passed out a memo. The motion was made last meeting, but this is one of those items where the auditors want absolute clarity, so I wrote a suggested 2 or 3 sentence motion, and I put it in writing so Karen can take it hopefully, but to simply provide the clarity that the auditors would like to see when it comes to ARPA funds. And I think I captured the sentiment of the board. I also added in there some clarity about what would happen if the skate park, for whatever reason, doesn't get off the ground. I have a pretty good sense that it will after tonight, but it's been a long time coming.
Any questions or comments on this item, or would anyone like to make a
Question, but I mean, I can do both. So we couldn't just simply reroute that 20,000 through recreation. This had to be a separate motion.
Best as a separate motion.
Okay.
Just so the audit trails were real clear.
Oh, okay. All right. I move to allocate $32,022.40 in unused ARPA funds originally allocated to the Highway Capital Fund for bridge repairs originally included in the 2023 adopted budget to be moved to the Recreation Capital Fund. These funds are to be utilized for construction of Waterbury Skate Park in the amount of $20,000 and towards mowers for the Recreation Department in the amount of $12,022.40. Sorry. $12,022.40.
In the event the funds for the skate park for any reason are not able to be expended, these funds would then be utilized towards the remaining costs for mowers and improvements to the town pool.
Second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion is passed. Next up, we have cash management policy, and I will go to Tom again. We've been provided a copy of our current one.
We've actually made good time while we.
I have,
One for the final finish line.
I'm requesting a simple modification of the policy. The bottom, the first page talks about return checks. And what it says is, and if you go to the second page, there's a sentence, the fee will be set annually by the select board. So the select board did not set the fee. So I would request that the policy be modified to simply say the return check fee is $20, which is our practice. This came up because someone paid their taxes or second installment and the check bounced. Very shortly thereafter, they paid the installment amount minus the $20 fee. So that person then got charged an interest and penalty of the $20 fee. So as it turns out, the statute allows us to charge interest penalties on delinquent taxes, not other fees like a return check. So that $2 in interest and penalty was waived, but then also that individual read our cash management policy and said, well, when's the last time your select board set a fee? And the last time I think was a few years ago. So I suggest, since the fee has historically been $20, we simply clarify that in the policy going forward, and it's $20 because I believe that's what the bank charges the town.
No, we don't pay a return check fee.
Don't they return
The
checks?
$20 is to handle the staff time between Michelle's adjustment, Kaya has to email a tax bill.
Yeah, and I think it's reasonable, and in my experience, I'll be blunt, I think when we get checks that bounce, frequently the people who write them know they'll bounce. So I think charging a fee for the headache is valid.
Yeah, I don't think it's unreasonable to charge a small fee for staff time, frankly. And there's other language in here that if they do it repeatedly, then we won't take their check. That was added when this document.
Yeah, the statute.
They bounce the check, the taxes ain't paid, so
So
it seems like.
the argument made is that, so the way our information system called NEMRIC applies balances is it applies it to the return check first. So according to our system, he had a balance of unpaid taxes. His argument was, no, I paid my taxes in full, the return check fee was something different, you can't charge the interest and penalty. Not worth pulling over $2, but I did shoot a quick email to the town attorney who said, yeah, I don't think you can charge that. % penalty and the 1 month interest on it. Yeah, it's. Part of it just depends on. You know, if you have $3,000 in the if you have $3,020 due in the system, you write a check for $3,000, how the system applies. Those, but I think in the end, we have absolute clarity if the policy just says the fee is $20.
I make a motion to amend the cash management policy for return checks to include a $20 fee.
Second.
Any further discussion? You mean you're replacing the sentence, the fee will set annually by the select board by just saying the fee will be $20?
Friendly.
Any further discussion? All right.
Oh, Sandy had her hand up and then she put it down.
Oh, Sandy, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, well, I just had a quick question. Tom was saying that NEMRIC has it apply it the where it goes back towards the top, I guess the taxes first. But there's a way to change NEMRIC so, and if you made it policy that it cover if a check is bounced and there's fees or there's any penalties or late charges, that the next check applies to that first and then taxes. And you
Yeah,
can
yeah.
set it up in Nemrick to do that. And if you have that in your policy, then you can charge fees.
Yeah, I don't
You
want
know-
to deal with another issue. I just wanted to deal
Oh.
with the issue in front of us for the moment. But yeah, no, I understand.
All right, so a motion on the floor to amend the cash management policy for the town to change a set fee set annually by the select board to the fee will be $20 for return checks. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Who seconded?
King. Next motion. Great, that brings us to next meeting agenda, and Karen, I believe, was kind enough to provide a draft. Thank you. On it right now, we will have even more meeting minutes because we deferred tonight's. So just to note, there'll be 3 sets. We have Route 2 Neighborhood Public Safety. Is someone in specific planning on inviting anyone to that meeting?
Roger is.
Um,
That being said, is he here on the 23rd?
I think so. I do believe we reviewed the 23rd at our last meeting.
I'm sorry, when did you just ask about Roger?
Here on the 23rd.
No, sorry, the question that came before
If
that.
he was inviting this first proposed item of Route 2 Neighborhood Safety.
I thought it was an item and I was.
No, the one note I did made was to move the minutes. We
Yeah,
didn't-
that's what I was
Okay,
doing when I looked at
perfect.
this.
Okay, so Route 2 Neighborhood Public Safety, we will ask Roger to follow up about invitations and timing of that. Tom, I assume you've requested audit contract.
I did not. I think that expires for a couple more years.
We did a
Oh, they
5-year
sent me-
contract at a fixed rate and. Sorry.
I may have the language wrong, but they mailed
Because
an
I
agreement or something. Okay, it's on my desk.
believe it was approved earlier by the board for 5 years. I think that was 23 through 26.
Do you want me to go get it?
But it might be an
Maybe you just
agreement.
take it off.
Figure it out in the
It
meantime.
requires signatures, that's all I know. It's an
Yeah.
auditor document and a signature lines.
We'll just pull the old minutes and see what's there.
Sure thing.
Other items from tonight or that need to be added?
You wanted LRT spending to be
Yeah.
revisited. one more
Yes,
time.
thank you. We can do have your say day, check-in and updates if there are any. Any other items?
I'm not promising it, but tentatively, let's go ahead and put the Wesley Church agreement there. And I'll try to get it done.
MOU.
MOU,
The Wesley Church,
with,
it might not have a final, but we can at least have a draft.
Any other items? Again, looking to January 11th, we will be publicly presenting our budget for input. Is there any other items we think need deeper board review besides LOT?
I will have one other item on here, I'd like to make, I've got to review the documents, but, the bullet should be, section 125 health plan, which is an IRS, requirement related to health insurance. It's not policy, it's tax, it's tax law, basically. You just gotta have an adopted plan. In the event you're ever audited, you present the adopted plan so that the employee benefits are in fact pre-tax. It's voluminous, but it's sort of routine boilerplate for the most part.
Any other items? On the ambulances one, do we think there's merit? I'm not necessarily thinking that December 23rd is a kind day to ask them to come in, but Tom, do you feel like there's any?
I believe their director she's on vacation now. I think she may still be out.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and personally, it feels a little, I don't know if I'd ask her for that. I'm just thinking ahead to. We haven't decided on, if we're proposing meeting the 30th as well. And then we have January 6th, and then we're at say your day, have your say day.
Lisa pointed out, we didn't say in our motion when those new dog licenses going to affect. I just assume the first of the year, because that's when dog licenses are due again.
Okay.
I don't know if we need to amend that.
He does have chunks of the year.
I just say months because it would apply to every year. I don't know if we need to go back and revisit that and. Is it oversight? I don't, nobody's buying dog licenses right now.
Any other items for the agenda?
I can check in with disaster preparedness to see how far along we are, but I'm gonna guess the first meeting in January is where we can expect that handbook, but we could also, we can just make a footnote, and if they got it, great, and we can present it.
No. Right, so then this is for a meeting on the 23rd. I just wanna, did we decide, will the next meeting, are we planning to meet the 30th as well as a open question? I'm seeing a yes. Okay, so per the meet every Monday in December, except the 9th protocol. We will plan to then have the next scheduled meeting on Monday, December 30th. And as well as then January 6th, which would be our regular. Any other additions for the agenda or other comments? Okay, seeing none, I would take a motion to adjourn. Or do we have
I'd
executive
like an
session
executive session
on the board? What matters?
I mean,
Okay,
if I can
personnel.
have that, yeah.
Okay, so we're looking for an executive session to discuss personnel matters. Do you want to invite anyone or just you and the board?
Just for.
Right?
Zero.
Oh, no. I have my DVR going.
I move to find that premature public knowledge of person,
Just for the purposes of personnel
yes.
discussions. Is there a second for Ken's motion to enter executive session? Second from Mike. All those in favor say aye.
I.